Isnad in Arabic, by the way, means sanada yasnudu. It's a fathu dhamman, for those who were in my class the other day. Isnad means a pillow is called a masnad because you lean on it. So the sanad is something you support yourself with. Yastanidu ala shay, or yastanidu ilayhi, right? To depend on something. So the isnad is something you depend on. It's also called a silsila, which is why we call this program Living Links, because the idea is that in each generation you become a link in the chain. So you learn it from somebody who learned it from somebody back to the Prophet ﷺ, or depending on the science, back to whatever science it was. So, for instance, the Ajurumiyya, right, is a book of grammar, and you can go back to Ibn Ajurum with the Senate. So if you study it in that chain. Now, obviously, once these sciences were preserved, then the ulama became more lax on the idea of the sanad. So with hadith, obviously, the books have been preserved, and we don't have the type of memories anymore. But you still need critical editions, and the computer age is very dangerous because things can be changed. I'll give you an example. I have a tafsir of the Jalalain, and there is a paragraph in there that criticizes a certain group on the Arabian Peninsula as being heretics. And that group, because there's a lot of money, they ended up buying a lot of the publishing houses. So in the new editions, that paragraph is completely taken out. But I have the original edition. So people don't realize that we're losing. I actually have and Tarif al-Arabi is here with me. Years ago, we were reading the Sharh of Imam al-Nawawi. And he had an edition from Lebanon. And we were reading it. And Tarif, you were here. You saw this. And when I studied it, I remembered he said that لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. You don't truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. And in his edition, it didn't mention that this included the Jews and the Christians. It just got taken out. And I said, that's not the way I learned it. And we looked at other editions, and there it was. Imam Nawawi mentions Jews and Christians as being your brothers. But because there's people in that region of the world that don't want people to think of Jews as brothers, right? They just eliminated that. So we have to be very careful. There's also people changing abwab. There's a chapter, an edition of the Riyadh al-Salihin, which has Bab Ziyarat Qabr al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the chapter of visiting the grave of the Prophet. They took grave out and put masjid because they don't like the idea of visiting the grave of the Prophet. So this is khiyanatun naql. That's what our ulama call it, being treacherous in how you transmit. And one of the things the Prophet ﷺ is reported to have said, I mean, it's a mursal in its sahih transmission, but the meaning is sound and our ulama transmit it. Imam al-Bayhaqi, Ahmad and others. Ahmad goes first, Imam Ahmad, and then Imam al-Bayhaqi and others transmit this. It has a lot of turuq. But the Prophet ﷺ was reported to have said, يَحْمِلُ هَذَا الدِّينَ مِنْ كُلِّ خَلَفٍ عُدُولُهُ, that this religion will be carried in each generation by khalaf are good people that come after. Khalf is negative. If it has taskeen over the ayn letter, it's negative. Tarakum min ba'dihim khalf with a sukun. If it has khalaf with a bounce, the fatha, then it's good. They're good people. So the Prophet ﷺ said good people would carry this religion from every generation who were upright, just people. Yanfuna anhu, they would get rid of the yanfuna anhu tahrif al-ghalin, the decontextualization of extremists, taking things out of context. They will negate that. So when they hear somebody quoting a verse, they'll say that's out of context. وانتحال المبطلين, and the plagiarisms of people trying to undermine the religion. وتأويل الجاهلين, and the interpretations of ignorant people. So that's the role of the ulama. So, just as an example, this is one of my athbats from my teacher, Shaykh Ahmed Gibran, who's also a teacher of Shaykh Abdullah al-Qadi. He was a student of Yasin al-Fadani. He's one of the last really muhaddithun in Mecca. And we used to visit him whenever we went to Mecca and read with him. But these are called athbat. So these are his athbat, and this is back to his teacher. So with the Jawhara al-Tawheed, which was written by Imam al-Laqani, great Maliki Azhari scholar, and it was taught in Al-Azhar, it still is, that this is, he relates it, Shaykh Ahmed Jabir relates it from Yasin al-Fadani, who was called Muhaddith al-Haramain. He relates it from Imam al-Mahrasi, who relates it from Ahmed bin Shams al-Shinqiti, Thumma al-Madani, so he went from Mauritania to Medina, who relates it from Mustafa bin Fadl bin Mamin al-Shinqiti al-Maliki, عن عبد الله ibn Ibrahim al-Alawi al-Maliki, عن Muhammad bin al-Hasan al-Bannani, great Moroccan scholar, عن أبي عبد الله محمد بن عبد السلام البناني الفاسي from Morocco, Fas, عن محمد السلموني, عن عبد الباقي بن يوسف بن أحمد الزرقاني, a great Maliki scholar in Egypt, عن النور أبو الحسن علي محمد بن عبد الرحمن الأجهوري, one of the students of Ibrahim al-Laqani, great Maliki scholar, Imam al-Ajhuri. عن المؤلف البرهان إبراهيم بن هارون اللقاني المالكي. So there's a chain to Imam al-Laqani in the Jawhara, just to give you an example. And so you study it with a teacher. This is another, this is a ijaza, this is like a diploma that is from one of my teachers who actually wrote a commentary on the Jawhara. A very large commentary on it, and this is his ijazah to me, and then they date it with witnesses, so that you don't say, "Oh, I got from so and so." Once he dies, right? People, may Allah give him a long life. And he put the jubba on me as well, which is a sunnah. So that's like a graduation. This was actually his jubba. So I wore it today for that reason. So, in conclusion, what I want to read from very quickly is Imam Raghib al-Isfahani, who died in 502. He's one of the teachers by books of Imam al-Ghazali. Imam al-Ghazali memorized this book. It's the foundation of his ethical theory. It's a beautiful book on ethics. He says in here, لا شيء أوجب على السلطان من مراعاة المصدين للرياسة بالعلم. There is nothing more important for government than to have some type of quality assurance for who becomes leaders in knowledge. فَمِنِ الْإِخْلَالِ بِهَا يَنْتَشِرُ الشَّرِّ. Because when knowledge becomes confused, evil becomes widespread. وَيَكْثُرُ الْأَشْرَارِ. And you will see evil people multiply. وَيَقَعُ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ التَّبَاغُض وَتَنَافُرْ. And you will see mutual animosity and hatred begin to emerge amongst the hearts of people. وَذَلِكَ أَنَّ السُّوَاسِ أَرْبَعَ. The reason for that is because political leadership is of four types. Al-Anbiya. The first is the prophets. In Sahih Bukhari, the Bani Israel, they yasusuhum. It said that they used to lead them. Siyasa means to lead. And the root comes from training a horse. Because people have an animal nafs. And so the sasa are the ones that are supposed to help them to learn to control their animal nafs, right? Until they become human beings. That's why you have law functions when people are human beings. You don't need, the policemen are there just to make sure the odd character that's not behaving like a human being, he deals with him. But generally, in a civil society where people are educated and human beings, the police have very little to do, right? But when people are behaving like animals, and obviously social circumstances create animals, right? People say, oh, that's just their nature. No, you take a monkey and you put a monkey in a cage that's very small with other monkeys, they'll start killing each other. Humans their animal nature is not different in that way. If you put people in very unhealthy circumstances, they will begin to behave in a different way that it's their fitrah or nature. You change those circumstances and their nature will flourish. People are not aggressive by nature. This whole idea that humans are aggressive by nature, most of you have never even been in a fight in your lives, except when you were little kids, right? You walk around, people aren't aggressive, but you step on their toes, they'll get aggressive. You know, you run somebody off on the road, he's going to get angry, and if he's not well, he might get really angry and try to shoot you. But if you don't bother him, generally he's not going to bother you. You know, you go to Palestine and you take people's land, yeah, they're going to get angry. You know, somebody comes into your house, moves you out, moves all your furniture out, puts you on the front lawn, and then if you start lobbing rocks through the windows, and they're like, what's wrong with those people out there? A bunch of animals. Does that make any sense? Yeah, they're going to be upset. You know, you change the property line on your neighbor, see how neighborly he is. Tear down his fence and extend your property maybe 10 feet into his. Suddenly that smile's off his face. He's not waving, good morning, Bob, how are you? You know, he might be loading up his 12 gauge. Right? And then the police come, well, it's an unfortunate situation, you know, but the guy probably shouldn't have extended his fence into the, right? I mean, they can understand when a guy loses it in those situations. They used to have in this country marriages, crimes of passion. Somebody came in, found the spouse with another person in their bed, and they lost it and killed them both or something like that. People got off for that. Right? Now they don't, because there's no more ghaira. The ghaira's gone. So it's like, oh, okay, you're with Bob now. That's all right. I'll see you later. Yeah. But that's the way it used to be. So the first are the prophets. وَحُكْمُهُمْ عَلَى الْخَاصَّةِ وَالْعَامَّةِ. And their authority is over the elect and the common people. What does that mean, khasa and amma? The khasa are the notables. Every society has people through education, through wealth, through accomplishment, through achievement. They enter into the nukhba. And this idea of total egalitarianism is just rubbish. It's a lie. It's never been true. It will never be true. It's just a simple lie. We live in a hierarchical world. It is the nature of the world. The challenge is spiritually not to hold people below you in contempt. I mean below you, not spiritually, because they might be above you spiritually. This is one of the paradoxes of this reality, is the illiterate street sweeper could be closer to God than the PhD doctor who discovered a cure for cancer. We don't know that, and that's why you don't hold people in contempt. But the idea that there are butlers in the White House. Right? And this is the way the world works. And every society has this. The communists tried to create an egalitarian society. They just created the same monstrosity. Right? They had their elite that had their caviar and vodka when everybody else wasn't, eating very well. So it's always like that. Just read Animal Farm. The whole story's in there. Right? George Orwell, the pigs. All animals are created equal, but some are more equal than others. Right? That was a little addendum added in later. So, ظاهرهم وباطنهم. So the prophets have control over the inward, authority over the inward and the outward. والولاة. And then the political rulers. وَحُكْمُهُمْ عَلَى الظَّاهِرِ الْخَاصَةِ وَالْعَامَّةِ دُونَ بَاطِنِهِم. Their authority is on the outward of the elect and the common people, but not their inward. So they have control over our outward. They can tell us you have to pay taxes, but they can't make us like it, because that's your inward. But if a prophet tells you to pay zakat and you don't like it, your iman, if you're paying it, but you're angry about it, your iman is something's wrong with it. Because you should be happy to do that. Because he has authority over your internal states as well. And then he says, وَالْحُكَمَاءُ. Now he means like the ulama, the people that know how to apply the sacred law in its circumstances. These are the arifun billah. These are the Plato would have called them the philosophers. He uses the word hukama, which Hakim is the wise one. So the sages. And then there's the sages. وَحُكْمُهُمْ عَلَى بَوَاطِنَ الْخَاصَةِ. Their authority is over the internal states of the elect. Spiritual elect. Because you can have political elect. See, you can have an illiterate person who's from the khasa. This is one of the secrets of our religion. Election is not limited to the outward meanings. You can have the khasa that are the elect of God. And they're over everybody. And it can be an illiterate person, like Sidi Abdul Aziz al-Dabbagh. Somebody like that. That's why I don't hold people in contempt, because you don't know who they are with God. You just don't know. Don't have contempt for people. Respect them. But also acknowledge the hierarchy, that we are supposed to have the decorum of respecting age. Age has rights over us. If somebody's older than you, you don't treat them like you're, hey buddy, slap him on the back. If he's got gray hairs and you're a young kid, that's not appropriate behavior. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, he is not among us who does not respect the aged or have compassion on the youth. So the old have to have compassion on the young when they see them slipping, when they see, oh, I remember I used to do that. Not get in that, you get these kind of 50, 60-year-old men who had terrible use, but then they become very pious and suddenly they're wagging their fingers at everybody, forgetting what they were like when they were 20. Right? This kind of sanctimonious piety. And then he says, وَالْوُعَاظ. And then there's the preachers. And we could add to these people the newscasters, the propagandists, the op-ed writers, all those type people. وَحُكْمُهُمْ عَلَى بَوَاطِنَ الْعَامَّةِ. And they have control over the internal states of the common people. And that's why they're the most dangerous. The وُعَاظ. صَلَاحُ الْعَالَمِ بِمُرَاعَةِ أَمْرِ هَذِهِ السِّيَاسَاتِ. If you want to rectify the world, it's to ensure the quality of these four and how it relates to the masses. In order for the amma to fulfill their function towards the khasa, and in order for the elect to fulfill their function towards the amma. We all have a purpose. وَفَسَادُهُ فِي عَكْسِ ذَلِكَ. And the corruption of the world happens when it's turned upside down. وَلَمَّا تُرِكَتْ مُرَاعَةٌ مُتَصَدِّي لِلْحِكْمَةِ وَالْوَعْظِ تَرَشَّحَ قَوْمٌ لِلزَّعَامَةِ فِي الْعِلْمِ مِنْ غَيْرِ اسْتِحْقَاقٍ مِنْهُمْ. When the who comes forward to teach wisdom and to preach was not guarded, and the quality of those people was not guarded, a group of people elected themselves to take leadership in knowledge without having the requisite ability. فَأَحْدَثُوا بِجَهْلِهِمْ بِدَعًا اسْتَغْرَوْا بِهَا الْعَامَّةِ. And because of their ignorance, they innovated in the religion and they deluded the common people. وَاسْتَجْلَبُوا بِهَا مَنْفَعَةً وَرِيَاسَةً. And they also benefited, because people get worldly benefit. And also leadership, jah, being in a position of power. وَجِدُوا مِنَ الْعَامَّةِ مُسَاعَدَةٍ لِمُشَاكَلَتِهِمْ لَهُمْ. And they found from the common people help because of the relationship, because they're really they're not refined people. They're not elect spiritually. And so the people that are, and again, you can have spiritually, you can have people in the highest positions that are the lowest of the low. They're amma, spiritually. They might be khasa in their zahir, but they're amma in their batin. And then you have people that are amma, they're from the common people in their outward, but they're from the khasa in their inward. So you can't see this in black and white terms. It's a very sophisticated way of viewing the world. فَكُلُّ قَرِينًا إِلَى شَكْلِهِ, every birds of a feather flock together. كَأُنْسَ الْخَنَافِسِ بِالْعَقْرَبِ, like the dung beetle who likes to hang out with the scorpion. وَفَتَحُوا بِذَلِكَ طُرُقٌ مُنْسَدَّةً, and then they opened doors that were closed. وَرَفَعُوا بِهَا سُتُورًا مُسْبَلًا, and they removed curtains that had been hanging. وَطَرَبُوا مَنْزِلَةَ الْخَاصَّةِ, and they sought the rank and stature of the elect. فَوَصُلُوا إِلَيْهَا بِالْوَقَاحَةِ, so they achieved these positions in utter shamelessness. وَبِمَا فِيهِمْ مِنَ الشَّرَّ فَبَدَّعُوا الْعُلَمَاء, and because they were evil, they claimed the real ulama were innovators. وَكَفَّرُوهُم, and they made takfir of them. اِخْتِصَابًا لِسُلْطَانِهِمْ, rapaciously stealing their authority. مِنْ زَعَةً فِي مَكَانِهِمْ فَأَغْرَوْا بِهَا أَتْبَعَهُمْ, they deluded their followers. حَتَّى وَطَعُوهُمْ بِأَخْفَافِهِمْ, they deluded their followers to the point where they even stepped on these scholars with their feet. And this happened many times in our history. Imam Tabarani, he was stomped to death in a masjid by these ghawgha. Imam Tabari, they attacked his house. The ghawgha of the Hanabila, it's mentioned in his, he mentions it in his history. They literally attacked his house. And because of all of this, great destruction is given birth to, and oppression becomes widespread. Alhamdulillah. Subhanaka wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.